Mike from around the world.
Pastor Paul, God bless you this evening.
God bless you. You sound great. You're coming in wall to wall and treetop tall. How are we doing tonight?
All right.
Question: where in the world is Mike from around the world? Are you in the lower 48 states, or are you somewhere else?
I'm in the bushes.
In the bushes. Okay, we'll leave it there. All right, Mike. Great. Great to have you tonight, Mike. You might have heard my little rant I've been on here, but I've been preparing everyone. I mean, you told us 3 weeks ago in that special Patreon video we did that you knew that there was rivers of radiation coming to London, that there was talk of that. And then today, Russian television anchor gets on and says, Russia could nuke the UK with unstoppable torpedo, causing a 500-meter radioactive tsunami, wiping Britain off the face of the earth with a radioactive tsunami from the Atlantic Ocean. Want to comment?
That's true.
Want to comment?
That is very true. Of course, they have those they have autonomous devices, nuclear devices in the ocean that can go on missions for years at a time. They are autonomous, of course, but they have objectives, and they have been all around the place. They're in the category of shadows, of which a lot are detected, which can't really track them down. They're very, very fast. And when I was talking about, London, the UK, Ireland, all those places, France, you'll begin to see Putin's rhetoric go towards that entire peninsula. Speaking of France, Belgium, Netherlands, Germany, Portugal, the UK, London, especially London, they tried. They're in a fix right now. Number one, their Navy needs lots of repair. Their naval ships are not working right. The UK, they had to bring some back to dry dock. The U.S. is helping them out because, Pastor Paul, everybody's in a hurry to get ready. I know a lot of people are talking about the DEFCON. And, of course, DEFCON 3 is a peacetime defense posture, which is, by the way, the highest readiness state that you can reach in peacetime, but where we're actually hovering between DEFCON 3 and 2 right now, right? Which means because a lot of people think this nuclear talk is rhetoric. It is not. Putin has been cited multiple times with a football, with a control mech to actually launch or give that order for a nuclear launch. So he stands ready right now. This is as of the last month and a half. He's been seen with the Russian football device, which means he's ready to give that or approve that order of nuclear arms, for that missile to be armed.
Right.
He's already engaged or set up a couple of more batteries of nuclear prepped troops. You're talking about, I believe it's 3 brigades. And of course, a lot of people don't hear about this. All they hear about is how Russia is suffering so bad and how they're defeated, how they lost all their troops, how they have no troops. I don't believe they understand exactly what Russia's doing. And it really takes information. You have to really look at the truth of a situation. And the truth is, what Putin normally does, in usual cases, he'll go out, get a bunch of folks from just about everywhere. He will thrust them into service, right, from poor regions, and he will give them uniforms out of, what's left over, whatever the case is, and he sends those individuals to fight the Ukrainians. Not once has he sent any mainline troops into the Ukraine, period. Not once.
He's holding his best. He's holding his best back. Yeah.
And people have no idea of his force strength. It's a bunch of rhetoric out there, and it's really starting to cripple people in their ability to see exactly what he's doing, exactly what's going on, and they will be caught by surprise because they're caught up in the propaganda more than actually looking for the facts. Of course, in wartime, they get all messy, so you have to kind of look at the numbers prior to when all this broke out. So Putin right now, and Turkish soldiers are volunteering every single day to go to Russia. You know they're going to Russia every single day. Do you know
Really?
that?
No.
Listen, in another 30 days, the Russian troop strength, just from those, we're talking about troops who have been battle trained, that number is going to be 1.2 million within 30 days. Well, probably within the next 20 days, on top of what he already has. So all this language about he's trying to get 200,000 troops and throw them out there and this, that, and the other, they do not understand the strategy, the Russian strategy, when it comes to war. They just simply don't understand it. He also has, China has raised its head with in direct, I mean, they're in sync with Putin right now.
They are.
So is Iran. They're going to utilize Kim Jong-un for a launch platform just to test the waters. And I believe that everybody's should be aware of that. But what you see is almost like a ruse. And because he's carrying around that football, right? Because we have NATO going to war is what we have.
Yeah.
First of all,
it's no longer Russia, Ukraine. It's Russia, NATO.
And that should be very obvious to a lot of people. So the escalation point of what people are still looking for, they look for an escalation point because they're listening to pundits on the news. And it's just a lot of people are not aware of what's actually happening on the ground in Moscow, what's happening behind closed doors with the troops and with some of the commanders. All these things are not known. Yeah. Largely. Intel knows, right? But because of political reasons and support for NATO, they have to be, NATO needs a lot of glue right now to stay together or it could fracture. And so even for example, Germany or Europe is not dependent upon Putin for oil. You know that, right?
No.
They were almost at a high dependency rate, probably above 96, right? Current counts, they're 15% dependent on Putin's oil, right? So it's been phased down.
Yep.
Totally phased down.
That's good.
But do you ever hear that in the news?
No.
So what is the problem that Europe is having? They're having internal struggles is what they're having. Because every time war breaks out, they call the debts, they balance the books, they start committing all their weaponry in a coordinated fashion. This often exploits finances of a nation. Their GDP and all these different value points of finance start coming out, and then they really start getting their act together. And what this means is the machine has begun to spin. Right, the war machine has begun to spin.
Yeah.
Before everybody gets nervous, though, this war that's spoken about in the Bible, it has to happen.
Yes.
Right. According to biblical principles, it must happen, and we couldn't even be as authentic as we can be without these conditions coming upon us. One more reminder: it is our Savior who opens the seal, so no one should ever fear what Jesus will have released upon the earth. He's doing that for us, not against us. So anyway, back to Putin. He's very serious about a nuclear war. And so the escalation point.
Does he want a nuclear war? Does he want it?
Well, think of it this way. Putin has been talked to by a lot of bishops, right? This is something that's not widely known. Yeah. A lot of bishops got together and they talked to Putin. This was some maybe, I don't know, a year back. They talked to Putin, and they spoke to Putin in a type of concerning his responsibility to the world and how important he was as an anchor to how this world operates. But they also spoke about the beastly component of the end times to Putin. Putin, in his mind, having a tight blessing from bishops, believes he has a responsibility to rid the world of certain influences that are of a very dark nature. Right. This is in his mind. So he's not going to stop in his pursuit of doing what he has to do. Right.
So in other words,
right now it's at the point, it's not even, yes, he wants to establish Russia. Yes, he takes personal offense to what happened back when the wall fell. Right. But he also had encouragement from these bishops that he was indeed living in the end times, that he has a position in the end times to stop certain advances of a system that is all-consuming.
So he doesn't see himself as the Antichrist or the bad guy. He sees himself as a type of Messiah, a type of savior for the world from the evil that's corrupting the world, the global elitist and all of this immoral. Excuse me. I'm sorry, we lost your mic for a second. He doesn't see himself as as the Antichrist. He sees himself as a type of Messiah, a type of savior to the world to protect the world from these global elitists and from these immoral ideologies and things that are happening and corruption. He sees himself, because of these bishops, as God's man for the hour. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. That's right.
Wow.
That's absolutely right.
Well, let me ask you this, Mike. As as you got cut off there, maybe we'll move into another area. Let's talk about China for a minute then, because China 2 days ago, again, irritating Taiwan. They've put Taiwan on high notice. Taiwan every other day's got a Chinese aircraft flying over their head or a ship crossing their side of the water. And at the same time, we got a balloon. What is this Chinese balloon doing floating over Montana, Mike? What's that?
Well, you know what? That's not exactly something new.
Okay.
That's something that's been going on for some time. It's just that a lot of people don't take notice. It's one of those obvious things that normally people don't see because they fly at higher altitudes. It's very difficult to see something at higher altitudes. One of the problems was this sheer cold front that came through, right? The cold air presses down, and it caused this balloon to lose lots of altitude. That's what happened. Now, of course, it has internal thrusters, so to speak. Vector thrust pods are on this thing. But when that cold air came down, it just kind of, it defeated its ability to go right back up again and maintain its altitude without killing the onboard battery. And of course, it's been very cloudy, very cold, and solar abilities are limited in that type of environment. So, but it happens more often. Listen, there have been countries spy on countries now more than ever, especially in the last year. Since the beginning of January, there has been an effort, especially since Putin invaded the Ukraine shortly after. China has been very interested, and they're also probing in a lot of ways. I'm glad you brought that up, Pascal, about that balloon, because here's a bigger note.
Okay.
The USA has declared a type of let's just say a technical battle with China in the last couple of days. So, and what that means is America has gotten together, and some of its cyber forces are now together, and they're going to directly engage China in just about all of their efforts. So a type of cyber battle is underway right now.
Really? Is the U.S. teaming up with other
That
nations?
is from the U.S. No, that's from us. That's from the U.S.
Well, last Sunday night I did a show, and I was able to show. I was with Bishop Larry Ragland, and we were able to show a site that shows where all the cyber activity hacks are coming from, and they're coming from a lot of them from Russia, a lot of them from China, a lot of them from other places, but also a lot are coming from the U.S. toward these guys. Okay, so there's already this cyber hack war going on. Is that true?
Yes, and it's dangerous. It's very dangerous because you have, just like a computer, the average computer, cell phone, whatever the case is, actually in that device you have thousands of failures in that device every single day. The reason why you don't see it is because often those errors are shoved to the side, recovered, washed over by code so that you don't see it. Well, in the world, the same thing happens. We are hit probably about every 2 seconds with some type of attack. If we ever stop our momentum, it's already a tsunami of tactical guys in the cyber realm waiting to just shut down America. Wow. They are actively seeking a way to hop and go right into an intranet to shut down nuclear facilities, cause them to overheat. This is a new type of hacking that's taking place. It used to be power grids, right? Now they want to overheat nuclear facilities. Now they want to take control of cruise ships and cause the isopods on the bottom of that ship to never, never lower its RPMs. So it seems like people now want to help to kill Americans as much as they're able to. And the problem is it's spreading all throughout the world. America is not a friend of the world, so to speak, in that respect. You have a lot of countries that are just waiting for us to falter.
Yeah.
They're waiting for it. And if we slip up one time, one mistake, somebody goes to sleep for 1 minute, Pascal, they're going to get through. The cyber realm is not, it's not like you write code to protect against a specific virus and then you're okay. That's not the way it works.
Yeah.
A brand new virus is created about every 30 seconds on the face of the earth. And they utilize most of these viruses to get to the USA infrastructure, of which they have been successful. Now, you'd never know when they're successful, right? If they shut off certain drainage systems to certain lakes, or things of that nature, you never know it.
No.
If they shut off water utilities, stop the sewage treatment plant, which is what people bathe in and wash in and cook their food in, recycled water. If that went down, that would you could poison half the nation. But these are active fields. It's getting worse. They're recruiting for lots of IT guys to get them in the cyber field so they know what they're doing, so they can kind of avert some of these attacks. Is getting worse. It will eventually hop to airlines, to cars, all sorts of things, right? And so they have to get prepared. That's why a lot of money is going to be poured into that, starting immediately, to get people up to speed so that they can avert some of the damages that we will no doubt incur from this cyber activity.
Mike from the world's with us tonight, folks, and we're talking about these serious threats on the world. The fact that Russia is in war with Ukraine, but this thing is so close now. It's really Russia and NATO. We've got China really bearing down, putting the pressure on Taiwan. We've got North Korea. Matter of fact, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin is in the Philippines tonight, and he just left South Korea, and he's made promises. He's going to beef up more U.S. assets in South Korea and more in the Philippines. I guess that's because of the North Korea-China threat in that region of the world. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, it's getting rough.
And then you've got the Middle East, okay, which right now is a lot of shuttle diplomacy going on. We see King Abdullah going to Washington. We see Netanyahu going to France. We see Anthony Blinken bouncing around the Middle East. Everybody seems to have a different sheet of music. They're all singing a different song. I don't see how they can make that work, but so these four are the troubled area parts of the world. Mike, I made a comment before you came on that one of them are going to break the dam. One of these four, and when it happens, does that create a cascading effect into World War III?
Probably will. In my opinion, I think World War III has already begun. It's just not recognized as a world war yet. World War II, the people in America, they didn't pay attention to the war, what was happening until Pearl Harbor was hit. And of course, we were hooked into that war. Same thing is happening right now. Everybody is trying to stay neutral. The propaganda machines are flying in every single nation. The people of each nation, they're relatively, I don't want to say dumbed down. I want to say kept out of the loop.
Right.
And they don't really understand how bad it truly is. It's kind of rough right now. It's very eerie, let's put it that way. And things will ultimately, they're going to start to overflow, Pastor Paul. Especially, you have Russia in its current state. You have Europe, you have France, you have Russia just declared something against France also. Do you know that? Because
no,
France has not ruled out that they'll be sending extra equipment to the Ukraine. By the way, for all those who believe in the propaganda, if the Ukraine is winning and if Russia is so damaged, why do they need 55 or why do they need all the tanks that they're asking for? Why would they ever need that? The truth is, these guys, they need a lot of money. So,
yeah, they're not.
And Pastor Paul, do you not know that's going to cost, from what they're sending in the tanks, that's going to be $55 million a day? You know
Who's
that.
going to pay for that?
Just to support the tanks. Just to support the tanks. $55 million a day. That's fuel, certain parts, right?
Yep.
And the support systems. This does not include paying for those parts. This is an operational cost.
Yes.
For the Abrams, M1A2 Abrams. That's a 76-ton machine. By the way, that's 76 tons in such a dense area. Ukrainian streets cannot support that weight. They can't. The kinetic energy weapons that thing uses, if they were to go out with a full complement, that's $700,000 per year. This is a base value. This is the bare minimum. Anti-tank weapons, that's $1 million. Kinetic, of course, those are sabos. That's $1 million. Operational cost per year is about $160,000. That's about $1.9 million per tank per year, which breaks down to $172,000 per day. And if you multiply that, because they're also getting the Leopard 2, 354 tanks. It was 321. That number's been increased.
Yeah.
And that averages out to about $55 million per day. And that's if they reserve shooting rounds, if they reserve their fuel usage, right? Because the Abrams can only travel 205 miles unless they have the diesel variant, which raises that another 36 miles. So
in other words,
this thing uses a gallon of gas every 6 minutes when idle.
Yeah, $55 million a day. That's just to set them there, get them there, operation, and just set them there. Not even work, not even making a move, not shooting.
But where is that going to come from? Who's going to pay that money is what I'm saying.
No,
and when you start getting into that, right, if they start fighting, you better believe this is not just some Ukrainian crisis. This is the world is involved now because the world's going to have to fit the bill for this.
My question is,
they're going to have to fit the bill.
Who is leading the charge from NATO? I mean, it's not Joe Biden. Who? I mean, America has the money, or is the one that's going to expected to spend the money. But who's calling the shot? I mean, is it Jens Stoltenberg? Is it the new Schultz in Germany? Is it Macron? Is it Biden? I mean, who really?
There's a very shifty dynamic with NATO as far as the war front. Tactical decisions, that's not going to be left up to any of the presidents. So that won't be
generals.
That won't be France, right?
Yeah,
and that's going to be left up to probably down to 5 specific individuals. They'll have that the tactical command authority to govern everything happening there, but it is each president that must approve.
I know.
Anything that's going to impact the nation of which this equipment comes from. We're about to see an escalation like we never saw before. Now, this will evoke changes in every single nation at the wrong time. You remember, Pascal, that when Jerusalem, the scripture about Jerusalem being trampled underfoot for 40 and 2 months.
Right.
That cannot happen if the USA is in place.
That's right. That's right.
The USA has brand new policies coming out. People are not going to like these policies. These are what I'm going to call forced policies. The people want these policies.
Okay.
This is not congressmen. This is a people-driven policy. And we have the election coming up. So you better believe they're going to do whatever's necessary to keep the votes. Unfortunately, that's what they work for, to keep the votes.
Right.
So with all this turmoil that we have in the U.S., with people, they're starting their rhetoric machines against each other. It's going to rip this country in about 3 to 5 different portions. It's going to get really bad. But during that time, while it's ripping apart, they're going to start tearing families apart through prosperity of certain states. They're going to really make a divide this time. When this does take place, the military's already aware of it. Northcom is aware of it. Everybody's aware of it. Unfortunately, I do believe that we're going to see a small interruption by way of war and mishaps of war in this process. I do not believe Joe Biden will continue. I don't believe that. I just don't. I believe a type council will be involved in government. Certain dynamics will have to change. I believe that the USA is going to start yielding to foreign powers. I
Yeah.
believe that's actually coming. And with this build of Islamic individuals in Russia, right?
Yep.
Because I'll say it again, you have over just what in a couple of weeks, I believe it's 200,000 went to Russia.
From Turkey.
200,000 went to Russia.
Yeah.
So, but there are more on the way. It'll be another 200,000 in a couple of weeks, and another 200,000 or 300,000 after that. They are Islamic in nature, right? They will be set in command positions. Many of them are officers. They speak fluent Russian. They're very acquainted with that society. Remember, Russia set up a base there,
Yeah.
right? So it's a very special relationship happening there, and people might want to get ready because a lot of people have an issue with this scripture where you see this 200,000 component coming out, right? Which is 200 million.
Right.
But people ought to be reminded what could cause. That's not a normal army. The reason it's not a normal army is because it's going to be a war where faith is the issue of the entire thing.
It's going to incorporate people.
It will involve everybody.
Everybody, right. And so, we can look in the book of Ezekiel 38. We see where Turkey is a part of this conglomerate. Okay, it definitely has Russia, Turkey, and Iran, and some of the other Arab nations that make up this coalition that actually make a move on Israel. And to your point, they can't make a move on Israel until they've got America weakened and out of the way, to the point where we're not standing in the way.
That's right.
And then they will make their move. And we're seeing those components are taking place right now. The stripping down of America, the weakening of America, both internally and externally, it's happening to us. And then, meanwhile, we see these these axis of evil, building coalitions. And it's going right along with the scriptures. So you're saying, understand that what's happening is going to happen. We got to pray, stand strong in our position with Christ, not be afraid, but we're going into this thing's eyes wide open, right? Eyes wide open.
Oh yeah, and it's spiritual at the root, Pastor
Yes.
Paul. You've been saying this for many years, because if everybody thinks about it, why would everybody want to go against Israel?
Right? Why?
Well, I can tell you why. Because Satan does not like anyone receiving a promise from the Most High. And Israel is the only place on earth that God actually made a covenant with humanity. It is the only place. And Satan, the guy he's on death row, by the way, but he's lost his mind. He's not going to stop until he can interrupt that. And so if he has to go through and corrupt everybody for that cause, that's precisely what he's going to do. Well, with everybody else, I won't be corrupted. But we have to remember that, I'm not here on this earth to make this earth my paradise.
No.
I'm here to develop, learn, experience, grow, so I can be born into eternity, not to stay within the womb called life on earth. And a lot of people think this is their paradise. They think this is it. If they can get rid of that mentality and understand that they're inside of a womb, they're about to be born into eternity to grow and be nourished, they'll find themselves not being scared. Because if they try to protect, Pastor Paul, what they have here on this earth, the very thing the Lord said don't do. Because if we're driven by that motivation, then we become what are we becoming? We're going to start fighting for foolish things. I believe that's how America gets neutralized. I do. Nobody's going to come from the outside and neutralize us. That's not going to happen. We're going to do it to ourselves.
Yeah.
We're going to do it to ourselves.
Mike, let's talk also. Let's move into the stratosphere. Let's go into even farther than that. Let's go into deep space here. Just yesterday, we had a very phenomenal thing. We had two comets. We had this comet ZTF, which is behind my shoulder here on the screen. The beautiful green comet that went very close to the Earth, closest in, they say 50,000 years. But anyway, it's a beautiful comet. And while that was going past Earth, we had this comet over here that, let's see if I can pull that up, which basically went around the sun and didn't explode. It was 3.5 miles wide, I think it's extraordinary. If you ask me, it was an extraordinary. Here, let me see if I can grab it here. It's called 96P. Here it is, folks. And let me put it up on the screen. Everybody can see a little bit bigger, right there. And there's actually showing it as it goes past the sun. It doesn't dive into the sun. They said it was 3.5 miles wide. Instead, it did a perihelion. You can see it as it goes by, and the sun reacts to it, okay? And scientists are starting to say now that, wait a minute, this thing's not from our solar system. This came from outside of it. This is an interstellar comet. This is a very rare comet. Not sure even what its components are. What do you know about this, and what's your thoughts about two comets, one around the Earth, one by the sun, same day? Is that just coincidence, or is there a sign in the heavens here?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is that when we see it, right? When we see it, that's the purpose. It's almost like a reminder, isn't it?
Yeah.
And green is certainly a color of warning, believe it or not. Believe it or not.
Wow, really?
Believe it or not. It doesn't matter if a person sees a green orb, a green comet, a green glow. It always comes right before a devastation, a massive change every single time. And I believe that because the whole world saw it, right? The true purpose was that we would see it, us. Because some of these, like in Genesis, God set everything in the heavens, the stars in the heavens and all these things for signs and for seasons, it says.
Yes.
Well, those words are for signals.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Those signs are signals and appointed times. That's God put all that in place for us. The word came first, and then the heavens were modeled after the word. So then that means God doesn't do anything accidentally.
No.
Everything he did has purpose. I strongly believe in that.
Yep.
So then everything in the heavens has a purpose. And because we can all see it, it causes us to look into the heavens in a very different way, sparks our curiosity. The average person will say, ooh, that's nice, and then they go back. We're the first ones that will say, does this mean anything? Then we'll seek the Lord, right?
Yeah.
Pastor Paul, every time I've seen this happen, something major follows, something that directly impacts Christianity, it seems, every single time. They're almost like preparatory signs. Now, the greater ones will come because a lot of people are not going to pay attention to it. They'll say, well, it's just happenstance. I don't believe there's happenstance in God's creation. I don't believe that. Everything is purpose. We don't know the reason why, but things are not acting right in the heavens. They're just not.
No.
Why would the sun react to a comet?
Yeah,
A big
can't
ball of
understand
ice.
that. Yeah.
Why would that ever happen? That's crazy, right? But they're seeing that more and more.
Is the binary system that's going by, is it? We know it's affecting the sun. It's affecting all the planets in our solar system, our whole solar system. Is it also affecting the comets, or what comets come our way?
It will affect everything. In fact, in most observations, number one, most of the systems out there do not have one sun. They have two or more suns. So the common rule in God's creation is a binary or more system.
Right.
Not just one sun, but more than that. And then, of course, with some of the forces that the spacecraft are beginning to experience, and by the way, have experienced, even with Voyagers 1 and 2, there is a perturber out there. So in other words, there's something pulling at the Earth and satellites and all sorts of things that should not exist, although it's been very constant. Now that force, that pull, is becoming stronger and stronger, and now it's starting to shift in its angle. And what that means is, if two suns are in proximity, right, they could be light years away, still in proximity, a power exchange takes place right after that. But it also comes with gaseous clouds, with more and more comets and meteorites that are not coming from normal directions, right? I think we spoke about 5 weeks ago about two objects which had a very high and unusual arc that went over our solar system.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And I think I also stated that you won't hear anything about it unless it's going to be seen. And then they'll always say, wow, this came out of nowhere. We're just finding this. The truth is they have tracked many objects, right? Many, many objects out there. They just don't use one portion of the light spectrum in infrared, Pascal. They use that whole band now. They also use blue. It's not infrared. It's a blue band, right? Spectral band that they use to see. So that kind of scares folks when you show they don't want to see the blue, because those objects are the ones that are not supposed to exist. It shows too much, right? That would scare people. And so what we have is most certainly we have a protected solar system in a way that would fascinate anybody. It didn't matter what level of belief they're at, it would just fascinate an individual. It would also defeat the ideology that somehow the universe just coalesced from a bunch of molting rocks. They would throw that out. Because we have a shielding in a way of rocks that maintains a pattern all the time. No matter how they're interrupted, they always reorientate, and it's not based on magnetic field lines, right?
Okay.
It's an amazing thing. But we're going to experience more and more debris coming in at a very high angle to our solar system as this secondary system comes in. We likely may not see the fullness of this second sun, right? But we're certainly going to experience all the forces.
Of it. Okay, now,
and lots of poison is coming with it.
Okay, now you know how you talked about on the webinar, you mentioned the January 24th as a date and then January 31st as a date. So that's about 3 days ago we had apparently the third inner event. We have just got information tonight that the James Webb Telescope, and they're admitting this, was knocked offline due to a galactic cosmic ray, galactic cosmic ray of radiation from outside of our solar system. And they admit that's why the James Webb Telescope went down. They've got it back up. Is that from this wave that you've been talking about?
Well, these things are arming in like they just intrude, Pascal. They're just overwhelming the heliosphere coming in. The last two on that came in this last series of events that came in, they are about 7 times less magnitude than what's about to pour in. Right.
Wow.
So let's just say these were minute, but still they had an effect, right? Neutrino detectors went off and everything else. But this next one could be said to be an X7, based on, if all the rest of them were zeros, this is an X7 coming in this month in February.
February 18th, I think, is the
18th,
date.
yeah.
February
That's an 18th. X7 strength, right?
All right. So that's, in other words, this is a big one.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it's not even known where to start. I thought we would have a lot of data, but a lot of data would be available to gauge what we would face. No, it doesn't work that way. But we're going to have a lot of examples of inbound intruders like this. This is just one of quite a few coming in. Plus, there's something else coming in also, which is not a wave.
Yeah.
But
it's an
actual. Well, it's an actual big rock,
it's
and it's
rock
coming our way. So,
but Mike, would you say that if I go right now to the NASA Near Earth Object chart, there's nothing on the chart anywhere that says
no, it's not going to be there.
It's not on there.
No,
but you're telling us, and you have been, that this event is coming in 2023. We have a big rock headed right toward us, and it's going to hit us. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, and
we'll see. We'll likely see an ocean impact from that. I'm hoping an ocean impact. I don't control it, so I don't know. But we'll get closer to a track as it comes in. I have no idea how they're going to cover it. I suspect how they will. But normally they report things like that are somewhat benign that may hit in the ocean, even cause lots of damage. They may say, we didn't see it coming, this, that, and the other.
Right.
So that means that entire topic is going to become unpopular during that time. Now, this is how counterintelligence works. They work with psychiatrists, behavioral scientists, and psychologists. And what they'll do is begin a type of rhetoric out there in the media, things like that, causing people not to even think about inbound asteroids or anything else. Hollywood will also be a large part of it. All news media outlets, every single talk show, you name it, they're going to be in on it. They're going to receive directives, and they'll start leaving certain subjects alone. Well, in our populace, if you don't talk about a certain subject, it does not exist. It takes 1 week for the public to forget about things.
So in other
and then
words,
once they forget, they'll be surprised.
When it hits, everybody will be surprised. Where did this come from? No one.
Right, and that's right. And then they'll say, well, no one saw this coming.
Do you think this impact's going to be quite significant and create tsunami?
Based on the size at its distance right now, Pastor Paul, it could be, it's going to cause some issues, right? It's not going to be a world killer, anything like that, but it'll certainly be an example that we're not living in the place we used to have 5 years ago. We're going to encounter more and more large events coming. I mean, some large events, very large events. People will see things pass in the heavens. In fact, there are a couple of, I'll say, shadows out there, Pastor Paul, which will likely skim our atmosphere, and everybody on Earth will likely see it go right past the Earth, right? And it will cast a shadow over the Earth. So imagine that one. You can't really dodge that. But by that time, I suspect we're going to be at war, right? Because if this war, take notice of something. The war is escalating.
Yes, it is.
People are getting ready for nuclear armaments and defense right now. People are getting ready for chemical biological weapons to be utilized. At the same time, we're entering into a very volatile part of space. We're having brand new events that happen. We have a few new plagues that are up and coming. So we're going to entertain sickness. The CDC is going to be busy. The heavens are going to be doing
active,
what they do. We're going to have this escalation of things happening all over the place. I can almost guarantee you that no one will, maybe they can't find the number to find out what impacted what, right? And things will become so busy. I hope that people are not stressed during that time, because that's still a time of great opportunity for people to share the word of God, because people will be listening then, right? Just for a short span. But Pastor Paul, they're going to combine their resources. And they're going to reset this world in a way that nobody likes.
Yes.
Just nobody likes. And they're going to do it by force. They're not going to ask anybody to become a part of anything. What they're going to do, they're going to do by force.
They're going
to we're going to see the biblical elements. They're going to jump right off the pages, right into people's reality.
We did this webinar back in December, Deep Impact, folks. And Mike was on that, as well as Stephen Ben-Noon and Gil Brazard and Marshall Masters and some others. I can't remember everybody. And we talked about Planet X and incoming asteroids. And I think it was Stephen Ben-Noon that said there were 18. He had inside info from the Pentagon that there was 18 significant incoming or inbound asteroids. Mike, you just focused in on one specifically. I guess can you tell us, do you know what month even, or do they know that yet?
That'll become clear probably about the end of this month. I believe that everything will be narrowed down.
In other words, we might get a better feeling when it's coming.
Yeah. Even of the inbounds you were just talking about, Pastor Paul, could be potentially much more than that, because every single rock that comes around the sun normally has, it has companions.
Yeah,
and we don't know how big those companions are. And still, with all the inbound tracks, we only see the ones that are reflecting in a type of way or carry a signature of certain gases, whatever the case is. But there are lots of objects out there. For example, what was it, 4 days ago? Something smacked into the ISS. They're about to have issues up there. My personal belief is that we're not going to have the ISS long, because they're running out of. They're going to have to send some fuel up there or something so it can maneuver, but it can't maneuver fast enough. The ratio of what used to come in and hit these micrometeorites that used to hit the ISS, that ratio is different now. They have increased in the last year, right?
Yep.
Even since the first of the year. Plus, we're also hitting a cap where certain satellites are going to run out of fuel, right?
Really?
So every time this happens, they have to be blown up. These are going to have to be blown up. You just can't let those deorbit and burn up in the atmosphere. That would be a disaster. Keep in mind that some of these things have they have a tank about the size of a brick. If one of those tanks enters into the atmosphere, it could potentially destroy or poison all life on the Earth. So they cannot afford for those things to come back into the atmosphere.
Because there's so much radiation in that thing?
Well, there are a lot of radioactive particles and some chemical compounds, right, that cannot be contained. And if they get out, they're going to react with the atmosphere. And then everything changes. Now, there are lots of those satellites up there. This was before they had oversight of certain types of methods that people would use, Pastor Paul. So I want you to think of this. With all the micrometeorites that are coming in and with all the rocks and everything else that's coming in, right, those satellites get hit. They do get hit. That's why we launch more. That's why they go down. But the number of those that are starting to lose altitude with certain, let's just say fuel supplies on them, that number is a bit too high. By the way, it would only take one rock to hit one of those things up there in the wrong way for it to cause a chain reaction, and then many would start coming down, right? Some of the satellites that are going up right now are sent up to observe those satellites in space that need to come down. Space Command and Air Force Command, right? They have a critical job. They have a critical job. If people understood the threat that we made ourselves hovering over the planet, if they understood that threat, they would not withhold money from Air Force Command or Space Command from getting the job done about tracking and destroying those things that we have launched that need to be destroyed before they come down. Because if they hit the atmosphere, that's it. And this has to be in coordination with every nation on the Earth. It has to be. Because China has satellites, Russia has satellites, everybody has satellites. And I believe that one major event will take place, Pastor Paul, and it's just not going to be what people thought it was going to be. It's going to be devastating, but it's going to be from that junk we have out there.
So we have all this junk floating around. We have we have this huge asteroid Apophis that's coming in 2029 on Friday the 13th, April the 13th, 2029. But I'm hearing you say, don't even worry about that one yet, because we got several to deal with before that ever gets here.
Yes, I can. Yeah. Honestly, I don't even think about Apophis.
You don't even think about it?
I don't think about Apophis because it's one of those projected things that are so far out there. We have so many dangers, so many transitions
that are imminent.
Right?
Yeah.
We do, and they will most certainly take place. By the way, are people even ready for the fires this year? Are they ready for the coastal floods?
No, they're not ready for no fires and floods. No.
The ground, Pastor Paul, has changed since last year to this year. It's altered. Mountains, entire mountain ranges have altered, have changed.
In what way? In what way?
The ground is worn out. The grounds of these a lot of these forests and things like that, all these trees have root systems. But the soils, something is happening to the soils of the entirety of the Earth.
Is it something from the magma that's rising? Soils. I mean, we just had another volcano yesterday erupt over in Vanuatu. This thing came from the bottom of the ocean, and it just was huge. And you said this was going to keep happening. They're just Is that what's corrupting the soil? Is it the heat coming up, or is it the radiation falling down? I mean,
look at it this way: the soil, right? The soil is kept not only by the rain coming down, but by dead leaves, right? Dead insects.
Yes. And
at the bottom, you have microorganisms and insects that actually act as little tiny machines that keep the soils they keep them full of nutrients for plant life to actually grow. Well, what happens when it gets too hot at the lower levels and the insects can no longer tolerate that type of environment? Well, they begin to migrate, and when they migrate, they are not adding nutrients to the soil. They essentially take out the trash and put in fresh materials. That's what insects do. They
Right.
recycle things. God made a perfect this perfect place called Earth, and everything manages itself in it. You see, a plant is a factory. It really is a factory that produces these perfect fruits of balanced nutrition that we need, and it's amazing to me. But anyway, it's all upset because now the Earth is heating up from the inside. It's driving the ecosystem under the soil to alter. It's just changing it. Now, all of this was foretold. Half the trees are going to probably, there are a lot of species of trees that will die this year. They already said that many of the farms, they have to hurry with certain GMO. I'll go ahead and say it. They have to hurry with the GMO projects that they have, Pastor Paul, because if they don't get them implemented in these farms, what they're growing is not going to survive. And by the way, the GMO, the genetic modifications to the food that we have right now, so they can withstand more radiation.
So that's why they're doing the GMOs, is to be able to handle the change of the soil and
That's
the
right.
climate and the radiation.
That is right. There you go. That's it. Because if somebody would look at what they're doing in this genetically modified food, they made it robust against ultraviolet, against X-rays, right? Against heat, against lack of humidity, against the absence of certain nutrients. And what they have done was go in there and make whatever it was robust against it.
But is that why
So
we
that
have
it
all the
can grow and
chemtrails?
survive.
Is the chemtrails to help to deflect the incoming the ultraviolet rays?
Chemtrails, since they wrote an article, I believe it was at the beginning of the year. I don't think a lot of people read it, but anyway, this chemtrail thing started in World War II. It began as one thing, but they eventually used it to reflect much of the ultraviolet, some of the infrared back out in space in an effort to keep the planet cool enough. And it's still not working.
It's not working.
It's just not working.
No.
And of course, it's going to have side effects. Of course, we're not made to inhale, heavy metals and things like that. So it's going to have a side effect. But they were trying to reflect a lot of the some of the harmful radiation. Remember, the elite live here on this planet. They have to survive too. They want their kids to survive. This is their paradise. It's not mine.
No.
It's not ours.
No.
Because we are to be born into eternal life, but they are not. They have to keep Earth going for as long as they can.
Yeah,
right?
this is
their
heaven. This is their
That's
heaven.
Right. And so they're going to protect it at all costs. They're going to do it, and they're going to use everything in their arsenal, Pastor Paul, to do it. They've modified the animals, they modified the food and everything else, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to keep people around as long as they can under their control, so they can keep farming the land. So they cannot live as queens and kings without subjects. They can't do it, and so they're going to do everything they can to stay alive. Unfortunately, their plans are failing. And there's some unknown things. Right?
Okay.
We still have the month of June coming. Somehow, before the month of June, hopefully a lot of Christians will go over the story of the fallen and make that story clear. Because if they don't, a lot of people are going to have formed opinions in the month of June, July, and in the months after that.
Are you anticipating some
about
type of
other life?
Are you anticipating or that some type of encounter?
Worse. Let's just say the world's going to get an education, a real education.
Are we going to have a visitation? Are the fallen ones going to?
I can't say.
Are we going to release a bunch of clones? They're cloning this. They're cloning the cows. China's so proud of now that these new cloned cows are going to produce 50% more milk than the American cows will, and we're going to get.
Well, not Walmart. They didn't beat Walmart, Pastor Paul.
They can't beat Walmart.
No, Walmart has. Have you seen the cows at Walmart?
I have not seen the cows.
The 6-7 foot tall cows. You've not seen that? Anyway, it's another subject.
That's another subject.
They do have them.
Yeah. So you're saying we're going to have a visitation or some type of education.
Education.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to have an education.
We better know what the fallen ones mean. We better know Genesis 6.
Yeah, because, a lot of people think they come from out there, right?
Right.
Can I just say one thing? Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
If I was a very intelligent individual and I came to a planet or a house And I looked into the house and everybody's screaming at each other, stealing from each other, beating each other up. I'm not going into that house. And they can't manage anything. I'm not going there.
Don't want to go
Why
there.
would somebody come all this way to peek around corners in the first place? That doesn't seem too intelligent.
No.
I think what people are going to learn are the three holes that are in the earth. And from those three holes, something very ancient has been there this entire time. And all three have been bound, right? All three cannot leave those holes. How they put $15 million worth of concrete to cover up all the channels going into the holes, but now the concrete is disappearing. That's just one story.
Whoa!
How that the Pentagon will come out and begin to educate the public on what we're really dealing with. And they're going to have an objective to go from the month of June to December of that year to lay out a real narrative. Because now we've entered into a time where people, well, unfortunately, they're going to have to start to, well, let's just say their belief system is going to be altered. And then there's going to be a brand new gospel released to the entirety of the world. And that comes near the time of December and January, which will uproot if a Christian is not grounded. Kind of similar to the History Channel back in 2001 when they came out with that special, and they kept saying that Jesus never died on the cross. And that shook a lot of people up. Right. In fact, after that was the year 1999 going into 2000, church attendance dropped and everything else. And then what happened? We had 9/11 and church attendance went back up. Right. Because people were attacked by an outside religion. And so that kind of, church attendance went back up again. But prior to that time, the History Channel, when they aired that documentary, church attendance was shaken. It was really shaken during that time. Well, it's about to happen again on a much deeper level with evidence, proof, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And this is going to really mess up those who are not rooted. Well, if they're not rooted in Christ for real, they can't play around with their Christianity, with their salvation. And no one should put anything off for tomorrow. But these things are coming out this year. They're not going to wait. They're coming out this year.
Coming out, and it's going to bring confusion in the earth. It's going to
more than we've ever known.
More than we've ever known. And yes. You better be strong in the faith in the Lord Jesus Christ. You better really, really know who you believe and who you believe in, and not be fooled or not be persuaded or not be enticed or not be brought into fear or to drop your Christianity or your belief system because of something that's going to be revealed to the earth, unveiled, revealed, released later this year. I'm sure we're going to be talking about this a whole lot more.
I hope so, Pastor Paul, because right now I don't believe people are prepared. They kind of fall apart over the smallest things. What will they do when proof is shown of things that are contrary to what the Bible teaches?
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of people, I hear them say the same things. Show me evidence and then I'll believe. Unfortunately, it's not going to work that way. Faith is very important because faith is beyond evidence and proof. That means if a person has faith, it exists within them in the very heart, and Satan can't tamper with that.
No, he can't mess with it.
But if somebody can prove to you that Jesus exists, then somebody else can prove to you that he did not exist.
Right.
And so these people looking after proof, well, this could be that part, Pastor Paul, in the Bible when it says, that day shall not come unless there come a falling away first.
Yep, and that's
this
right.
Could be that moment. It's sad, but it could be that.
It could be what causes a great falling away.
It could be.
It's why you can't be, don't be fooled by these narratives or these things that could look so real, so convincing that people will go for it. You hold fast. Faith is a substance of things you're hoping for, and it's evidence of things not seen. That's true faith. Believing in things that are brought to you could completely fool you and cost you your eternal soul. You don't want to go that direction. So, Mike, it's been a fascinating show. I'm going to be thinking about this all night, about this deep impact that's coming. I'm going to be wondering the world what's going to crawl out of the earth, what I'm going to deal with. We're going to find out, okay? I'm going to stay focused on that. And I appreciate you coming tonight and sharing with us once again. Really do appreciate your time.
God bless you, Pastor Paul. It's always an honor.
God bless you, sir. Thank you so much. Mike around the world, folks.